Hello everybody, it's Bourbon Bill, and tonight, a very special episode. We're diving back into a distillery I discovered last year in 2023 to the new iteration in 2024 of a bourbon that made my top 10 bourbons of the year list in 2023. Kings County Barrel Strength Bourbon, and I believe for the first time ever, their barrel strength rye. So look the hell out. Oh man, I could not be more excited. These are the 2024 releases from Kings County. So I'll link it above. Last year was the first time I ever got to try Kings County Barrel Strength Bourbon. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. It did land in my top 10 list. And they're back at it again this year. And it was on my list to definitely get this year in 2024. So here's the bourbon, the same old medicinal, old-timey Western style bottle with the old typewriter font. I love, just the metal cap with like the very tight grain cork. I love that kind of cork. I don't know what you call it, but I do. We get, very simple again, Kings County Distillery Barrel Strength Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This one comes in at 66.2% alcohol by volume, which is compute 132.4 proof. Just a smoking hot proof, 132.4. Last year's was 66.4% alcohol by volume, which makes that one 132.6 proof. So pretty high stuff, pretty similar proof to last year. And this, for those that wondering, is batch 17 as it displays here in the back. And you might say, well, Bourbon Bill, besides that cool-ass bottle, what makes this special? Well, it's from New York, which, a lot of you wouldn't consider that special, right? Some of you may, but a lot of you will not. What makes it special, though, is they use some small barrel formats. So they're using 5, 10, 15-gallon barrels and 53-gallon barrels. That's why it's so dang dark. Look at that. Look how dark that is. We say the darker the better on this channel. This year is a blend of 4 to 7-year-old bourbon in a mix of those barrels. They don't disclose, what age goes with which size barrel, but you can probably guess that the younger ages are the smaller barrels, right? Which gives it this more interaction with the wood for this deep, dark color that we like. The other thing that makes this bourbon pretty unique is the fact that it is again, 80% New York corn. Not sure they're known for growing the best corn, but whatever. 80% New York corn and 20% UK malt. That's right. There's no rye in here at all. It's just a 2-grain mash bill. Corn and UK malt. And I don't typically like Scotchy type stuff, but this was very good last year. A must buy this year. Now last year I got it for like $85 in a store. This year was $110 hairs. I think MSRP was $100 hairs last year. I just got lucky. So it's roughly the same. It's roughly the same as it was last year in terms of pricing. Craft Distillery, I don't know how many of these they produce, but it's not a ton. Not a ton. Okay. Now, one thing to note. Now, the more interesting thing, as if this wasn't interesting enough, was that this year they have a rye they call the Empire Rye. Okay, and this is actually batch 8, the Ocho in Spanish, of their Empire Rye. However, they made a little blurb about their rye has reached 3+ years. So the rye in here is also small barrel format mixed with large barrel. 3 to 6-year-old New York Danko rye, and you guessed it, this one's also only a 2-grain mash bill. Okay, 80% New York Danko rye and 20% UK malt. So these mash bills are easy to remember for those math challenge people. It's just 80-20. You swap the rye for the corn. You get the same thing. Also, the rye here is pretty dang dark. A shade lighter, though, than the bourbon. Gotta say that. Proof on this is 60.6% alcohol by volume, which is, compute 121.2 proof. So a little bit lighter in proof, we'll say that. Now, they did a blurb for this year which said, they felt their rye has reached an age and a complexity and whatever, of which they felt that they could release this at barrel strength. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, fans of this, I think batch 8 is the first one that they're releasing at cask strength for their rye. I think their Empire Rye has always been a little bit of a lower proof or not cask strength, but batch 8 here, cask strength. One interesting note, you might say, well, Bourbon Bill, how the heck do I tell these apart? My eyes are so damn bad, I can't read these small labels. And you're right. Without reading the small typewriter font, it's hard. But if you'll notice at the very top here, the corks are just slightly different colors. A little bit gold, bronzy for the rye, and silver for the bourbon. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to start with the rye here, because that's new and interesting, and I've never tried their cask strength rye ever before, and I've never tried any of their ryes before anyway. So here we go. These are not fresh cracks. They've been opened about a week or so. So here we go. How's the old Kings County rye in the medicinal bottle going to be? Good Lord, it smells delicious. It's got just the most vanilla raisin maple syrup note I could ever imagine. There's a hint of like cereal box cardboard and varnish in there as well. I know that's an odd note. But it really smells like my little girl's box of raisins. You know, when you first crack open that raisin box, you smell the delicious raisin and like a little bit of cardboard. That's what we're getting here. God, it's so raisiny. So much raisin with the vanilla on there. Let's take a sip. Oh, that's delicious. Oh, man. Wow, I really enjoy that. Whew. A lot going on. She's a little spicy. Long finish. Pretty thick on the mouthfeel. Good old New York hug in the chest. And no, that's not the smog. That's from this rye. Ooh. Okay, so flavors up front. Vanilla and raisin just coats the palate. Middle to end of the palate, we get coffee notes in here, along with like a very burnt caramel and a little bit of barrel char and that UK malt breadiness all mixed together, and chocolate. That's what we're getting here. Full disclosure, if you might follow my palate, okay, you might say, Bourbon Bill, we agree on a lot of things, so you're saying it's good, must be good. Full disclosure for you, my brother-in-law, who is also very similar palate to mine, we agree on maybe 90% of things. I love this, as you can tell. He hated the rye, said he would toss it down the drain. So, full disclosure, I love it, but it is exactly what I said. It's 100% raisins, vanilla, coffee, a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of a cardboard note in there. Okay, but it comes together in a delicious, pleasant package. I'm definitely going to buy another one of these next year. I'll be looking for batch 9 next year, guaranteed. It's a buy from Bourbon Bill. Rating, you know, price is high, and they don't disclose, you know, the ratio of small barrels to full barrels, and so I'm going to give it an A, though. Just a flat A. If they had gone better, I'd give it an A+. The price is a little expensive. You know, I'd like to see it at like 75 to 85, right? But maybe you can find it for 85. I found last year's for 85. But MSRP of 100, that's on the high end. I wouldn't pay over MSRP. Okay, we'll leave it there. Now the bourbon. Maybe this is a better view for you, that the bourbon here is a little bit darker. Just a tad bit darker. Now, let's give this bad boy a nose, and we'll find out if we like it more than the rye. Son of a bitch, that smells delicious. Did someone pour like a 20-year-old Elijah Craig barrel proof in here? This is all red fruit. Chocolates. There's an oak background here. And barrel char. Wow. On the nose, it's really coming across like an Elijah Craig barrel proof, like a good one. Man, I'm just getting so much red berries coming off this bad boy here. Red berries drizzled in chocolate with a nice oak and caramel background. Let's take a sip. It's got dates. Raisins, plums, very dark. It's also got red fruit on here. It's got barrel char. It's got caramel. It drinks hotter than the rye. Feels thicker than the rye. I prefer the bourbon over the rye, I think. I like raisins, don't get me wrong, but this just brings that red fruit, the oak, the chocolate, the caramels, the dark plum note, and there's a raisin note here, but not nearly as raisiny as the rye. This is a more complex beast, a little bit thicker, a little bit hotter. Boy, she's good. A+ rating on the bourbon. I'd pay in that 100 to 110 range for it. I think you're right in there for this. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Another home run from Kings County. If you're kind of ignoring them because you're afraid of the malt, I was too, but trust me, the malt adds, especially to the bourbon. The bourbon, you don't even notice it. The rye, you notice the malt more than you do the bourbon. That bourbon's fantastic. Man, that's good. And now it wouldn't be Bourbon Bill if we didn't do just a few comparisons for you. So bear with me, I got something real special for you lined up. Alright, I got all 3 Kings County barrel strength bourbons from 2022, 2023, and the 2024 Batch 17 lined up here. And dang if we ain't gonna drink through them. So, big shout out to Cole Wolfson. Thank you, sir, for providing a large sample of the Kings County Bourbon Batch 15, which came in at 130 proof. Was also 4+ years, but, you know, same type of deal. 80% corn, 20% UK malt, 4 to 5, 6, 7 years old in there. This was the 2022 release. Thank you, Cole. We're going to try that one out tonight. That's going to be in the green. And then I finished my bottle of Batch 16, which was a 2023 release, but I did smartly save a sample. So that's going to be here in the red. And we're going to go and say, are there differences? What's the best one out of these 3? Because maybe you're a fan of these and you're like, hey, I have 15, I have 16, I'm debating 17. You're going to find out on this channel tonight. No other channel gives you this kind of in-depth reviews. First up, 15 from 2022. Not as sweet on the nose. I'm just getting a lot of caramel. The red fruit's there. It's pretty reminiscent of 17. Here's 17. But 17's got this sweeter, like caramel thing going on that's missing here from 15. 15's less sweet overall. Let's take a sip. It's delicious, but finish is fairly short on 15. Feels a little bit thinner. It's kind of dates, plums, raisins. Little bit of caramel. It tries to get to red fruit, but doesn't quite make it, and it just fades away. I don't think that's as good as 17. Now, here's 16 in the red. Oh, now this one goes a little more vanilla cream. Wow, 17 here has way more like just fruits on the nose. This one goes, 16 goes vanilla cream. Alright, 16. And a 16 good. 16's all like vanilla, oak, char. There's a caramel there, and there is like the date prune note. It's a little bit sweeter than 15. I would say 16 is better than 15 between those two. Alright, now, the mighty question, is 17 the best yet? Here's 17. Just way more fruits going on in 17. Wow. Wow, 17 has the longest finish. It's just got, it's a teensy bit more complex. Kings County is not a super old distillery, so I'm betting like they're incorporating more aged stuff as the years go on, so I'm not surprised that 17's probably the best. Bourbon Bill, 17's the winner. The newer the better when it comes to Kings County barrel strength bourbon. Hallelujah. None of those are bad. They would all receive the same rating from me, honestly. But the 17 is a little bit better than the 16, and the 16 is a little bit better than the 15. But the gap between 15 and 16, I think, is a little bit larger than 16 to 17. Just saying. Now that's not all, because this is gonna be a long video. Sorry, this isn't all, because you might say, well, Bourbon Bill, look, these are limited. I'm not gonna get them, right? They're expensive for my budget. You know, you son of a bitch reviewing expensive whiskey I can't get. I'm saying you should try to get these. The bourbon's better than the rye, but I do enjoy the rye. It's quite different. What can I get that might have a high malt content for either one? Also making my top 10 ryes of the year list, Driftless Glen. This is an our bourbon pick of their rye at 124 proof. Compute 62% alcohol by volume. Now, this is a craft distillery, which is why I chose it. Number 2, it's right in line with the proof of Kings County. Number 3, this sucker here is like 7 years old. So it's actually all older, this single barrel pick, than that Kings County rye. Also, the mash bills are so similar. Okay, this is 75% rye, 25% malted barley. So you might say, okay, 80% rye, 20% UK malt, 75% rye, 25% malted barley. So we're like within 5% on the mash bill. Both craftish distilleries within 4 proof points of each other. Now, this one was about $100 hairs MSRP. This one's like 75-ish doll hairs. And a pick. And older. Let's pour this bad boy in the gold. Alright, here's our Driftless Glen. It's way more mineral and malty right on the nose. After drinking just the Kings County, this is very mineral and malty. But the stewed fruits are there. Let's take a sip. It's all fruit and malt. It's a little bit toasty. It's like toasted bread with like apricots and peaches on that Driftless Glen. Here's the Kings County Empire Rye. The 2, Kings County gets my win. It's thicker in the mouthfeel, and I'm not a fan of malt. It hides the malt better. Let's think of that. 3 to 6 year old rye blend, which we don't know the proportions, beats a 7-year Driftless Glen rye. And these are considered very good. And this made like not 10th in my top 10 ryes of the year. Like it was there, you know? Dang. What are you going to pick for the bourbon? If you know me, you already knew. Big shout out to James Street for this delicious godsend of a bottle. Chattanooga single barrel cask strength bourbon. And you're going to say, Bourbon Bill, Bourbon Bill. This is high malt bourbon. Now, we don't know the percentage of malt in here. I could look it up, but I don't know. Okay. Also aged greater than 4 years. So we're aging pretty much the same. Proof on this bad boy is 118.9 proof. Compute 59.45% alcohol by volume. Price on this bad boy though is like $60 hairs. Okay, so a little bit more than half. There is that. Okay, there is that. Just immense fruit and caramel flavors. I mean, the most ever. No malt to be found on the nose. This is all peaches, pears, and just caramel, apple, candies. It's just so much caramel. It's just like, where did this caramel come from? Let's give it a sip. Damn if that ain't good. That's one of the best Chattanooga single barrels I've ever had. Oh my god! Thank you again, James, for that. Killer. On the nose is what's on the palate. It's just all caramel and all a bouquet of fruits. 2 batch 17 of the Kings County. Is it better? We certainly hope so, because Kings County batch 16 placed in our top 10 bourbons of the year, where Chattanooga single barrel did not. So much more just chocolate caramel on the nose here. Wow, there's like an extreme Tootsie Roll edition here on the nose. Let's take a sip. It's like Beach Town chocolate fudge with fruit. Kings County does win. Thicker, longer lasting finish because of the proof. I mean, we're talking, you know, way higher proofs here. 132.4, I think, this year. Yeah. Versus 118. So, probably should be thicker, higher proof. Kings County wins in both scenarios to other high malt alternatives, but these other high malt alternatives are cheaper. They are. They're cheaper. They're not quite half price, but they are cheaper. Now, when I say Bourbon Bill, you know, look, I'm done with all these exclusive craft distilleries. What do you got that I can get that might be better than these Kings Counties for $100 hairs a piece? You damn well asked for it. Jack Daniel's single barrel proof happens to be a store pick. Is it better than the bourbon? Let's find out. Gosh, banana barrel char, sweet maple syrup. Good Lord. Good Lord. Oh my God. 131.2 proof. It's gonna beat the Kings County. Yeah, I mean they're different. They're different, but this is just my jam. Oh, bananas, maple, barrel char, caramel, and oak. Slaps. That's what a store pick. Creston's Wine and Spirits number 3, like 2 3-year-old barrel pick. Supporter Rob of the channel. I finished like 2 of these. It's like the 3rd one. It's almost gone too. One of the best single barrel picks I've ever had of Jack Daniel's. So it's probably unfair, right, to compare the best I've ever had of JD versus just the batch from 2024. But for $64 hairs, not quite half, kills it. This is better. This is better. Not the same profile, but it's damn good. And you can most likely find a shelfer of this. Now, is your shelfer going to be better than that Kings County? Maybe not, but it's almost half price. And we're all about the dollar here on Bourbon Bill. Like dollar bill tonight, you know? For the rye, what should we compare it to? Gosh dang, Jack Daniel's single barrel proof rye. Why the hell not? We're going all in on JD tonight. This also is a store pick from Bourbon Street Wine and Spirits. Coming in at 133 proof, so more proofy than the rye. The rye is only, what, 121 something over there of the Kings County. It was all banana, maple, and barrel char again. Similar flavors. Good Lord. Good Lord. Look. The JD Rye is about 7 years old. We know that. Just based on what they're doing for their barrel picks. This is a pick again. But it ain't no raisin box. Okay? Again, totally different flavor profiles, but the Kings County, for being $100 hairs, is not markedly worse than these killer JD bottles, okay? But they are limited. The JDs are not as limited, shelfers, if you will. Now, these are store picks, but that's all I got, okay? Totally different. The Kings Counties are just darker coffee, chocolate, bombs, okay, raisin bombs. The JDs are all banana, but my point is this: if you want a really good rye and bourbon and you can't find the Kings County, just get a Jack Daniel's barrel proof bourbon or a Jack Daniel's barrel proof rye. It's not the same flavor profile, but it'll get you in the same class of whiskey for less money. If you're into the craft distilleries, these Kings County barrel strengths are phenomenal, and you should 100% pick them up. They're both going to receive buy ratings from Bourbon Bill. I'll buy these every year, to be honest. Every year I see them, we're going to buy them. You just got a rundown of 15, 16, and 17 for the Kings County bourbon batches. The rye is a buy. If you like what you saw, please consider joining our Patreon. These videos don't pay for themselves. Big shout out to Stephen Humma, our Patreon supporter. Consider joining Patreon to help me pay for this so Rita's less mad at what I spend to buy whiskey to review for you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.